Today, we push the limits of Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury modding by bringing Bowser Jr. to Super Bell Hill and seeing what happens. I've made a past video where I made a custom version of Super Bell Hill in Bowser's Fury, and today we bring Bowser Jr. into the picture. So what if Bowser Jr. was waiting at Super Bell Hill instead of Scamper Shores? You have your Bowser Jr. cutscene playing where Bowser Jr. is flying back and forth and he pulls out a painting of Bowser. He's showing Mario that he really needs Mario's help to turn this scary Bowser back to normal, and it's really cool to see Super Bell Hill in the background during this cutscene, because normally you can see Scamper Shores in the background during this cutscene. It looks like Bowser Jr. is in trouble. Mario, Dad is out of control. I don't know what happened. Mario looks over at Bowser Jr. and we get to see this cutscene from another angle. Bowser Jr. taps at the painting, asking desperately for Mario's help. I tried to help him, but he's too big and mad. I can't change Dad back by myself. The camera zooms back to Mario, Mario takes a closer look, and Bowser Jr. keeps tapping at the painting, asking for Mario's help. You might also notice that things in the background are frozen, and that the goombas and the coins aren't moving in the background during this cutscene. I'd never ask you for help, never ever, but I'll do anything to save Papa, so help me, Mario? Mario considers it, he looks like he's thinking about what's going on, and he decides to help Bowser Jr. And after this cutscene, here you are at Super Bell Hill, with Bowser Jr. here, ready to help you on your adventure. You might know that these birds run away from you when you get close to them, and these birds also get scared away if you send Bowser Jr. over to them. As you walk through the level, you can get a Super Bell power-up from this question mark block here, just like in the normal Super Bell Hill level, and Bowser Jr. is eager to take out the Goombas that are up ahead, taking out one Goomba and then the other Goomba before we even have a chance to get to it, because in the options we set Bowser Jr. to help us a lot. Mario heads through the clear pipes, which work normally, and he gets another Super Bell power-up, and these power-ups are stored in the bottom left corner because this is Bowser's Fury, and in Super Mario 3D World you could normally only keep one power-up. If you collect this coin down here, it creates a coin trail, and you can collect all of these coins, and you can send Bowser Jr. after these coins to collect them. Or, if in the options you set Bowser Jr. to help you out a lot, then when you even get close to the coins, Bowser Jr. starts to collect all of them. And something interesting that you might know is that if you ground pound here in the center of these flowers, a circle of coins appears. The strangest part when I was first testing this was that if you get too close to here, there's some strange overlap of objects and you take damages if you're walking on goop here, even though there isn't any of the goop here. And as Mario tried to continue across the level, all of this floor here was acting like this goop that damages you, and eventually it ended up defeating Mario. I also wanted to try jumping down to get this green star, but it actually disappeared out of view as Mario got close to it, like it's a desert oasis illusion, and it's not really there. I think that could actually be a really cool idea for a mod of this game, having a green star like this disappear as you get close to it. Another funny idea is making the pipe disappear after you go into it. So if the pipe launches you up, Mario doesn't get the green star here, and he falls back down, and you can't control him here because you are launched out of a pipe, so you can't control Mario when you're coming out of a pipe like this. At the second half of the level, it looks nice to have Bowser Jr. by your side. You can get the checkpoint flag, and I climbed up to this top part here with the two rabbits. I sent Bowser Jr. after one of these rabbits to see if Bowser Jr. could also catch these rabbits, and Bowser Jr. can catch the rabbits that are in Super Bell Hill. The funny thing is, when you get this rabbit, the camera gets locked in this position. Even if you move around, even if you jump down, the camera just doesn't follow you and it's locked in this position because of how cameras in cutscenes work. You can keep moving around Mario and you can continue the game if you can play without seeing where you are, but you can't adjust the camera from this position. I sent Bowser Jr. up to catch this second rabbit that was up here, and when he catches the rabbit, the camera moves over again because it's a cutscene, and the camera is now locked in this new position. And there's a glowing ball of light here. That might be because the rabbit left behind its soul, and we're looking at the rabbit's soul right now. It was really interesting to see that this small pond here, it looked like it was water just like normal, but you could actually walk in it instead of swimming in it the way that you normally do in Super Bell Hill. The Super Bell Hill that we're in right now is above Lake Lapcat, and you can see Scamper Shores down there. If you fall, all of the death areas that are normally here in Super Bell Hill are still here, so Mario can't actually drop down to Lake Lapcat right now, even if we can see it. You might be wondering if it's only Bowser Jr. who can make the camera behave strangely when he catches these rabbits, but it's also Mario. Mario can catch the rabbit and have a green star spawn, and then the camera is locked in this position, where Bowser Jr. and Mario can run around. Even if Mario climbs up to where the other rabbits are, the camera doesn't follow him up here because the camera's stuck in this position. I wanted to go into the pipe to see what would happen while the camera was locked like this. I was wondering if the camera would unlock. Bowser Jr. pauses for a moment, and then he teleports over to the left. We saw in a past video of mine that the stamp room in Super Bell Hill is stored to the left of the level, so that's why Bowser Jr. teleports over this way when we enter the pipe. So let me show you what happens if you enter this pipe with this locked camera. We can hear the stamp room music playing, but the camera doesn't follow Mario, and after a moment, Mario falls to a death area. If we try going into the pipe without a locked camera, so if we try this before we catch a rabbit, Mario can go into the pipe and end up in the stamp room. And it's interesting to see this room with the camera from Bowser's Fury. The camera in Super Mario 3D World is a lot more zoomed out in this room. But once you're in here, you can get the stamp without a problem, and then you can hop into the exit pipe and head back to Super Bell Hill. I was wondering how these locked cameras from rabbits would work with other parts of the game and other cutscenes, and it was interesting to see that the camera would really want to stay in whatever position it was in when you caught these rabbits. I was wondering what would happen if I got a locked camera and then I made my way over to Lakeside Giga Bell, and what ended up happening was the cutscene for talking to Bowser Jr. here got triggered. Maybe after this cutscene my camera would go back to normal? But when the cutscene was over, the camera was still locked like before. Even if I headed over to Fort Flaptrap, going to another level didn't fix the camera, and the camera was still locked in this position. It was starting to rain, so that meant that the Bowser phase was going to start soon. And when the Bowser phase started, the camera was still locked in this position. It's definitely a unique camera angle, and it's really cool to see the game from this angle, even if it isn't really playable and you can't see where you're going. As you continue through the level, you can have Bowser Jr. take out these cat goombas for you, and taking out this one will give you a Super Bell power-up. And when you head down here to where the final green star is, you can see that you could use Bowser Jr. to collect the green stars for you, just like you could use Bowser Jr. to collect cat shine shards for you. And then, you can pop on up back to the level using the warp box here. At the end of Super Bell Hill, I put a cat shine here instead of a goal pole because you collect cat shines in Bowser's Fury, and you can check out my video that goes more in depth on checkpoint flags and goal poles in Bowser's Fury if you're interested in that. This cat shine is pretty high, so you can't reach it from the ground whether you're doing spin jumps or jumping after ground pounding. From the top of the steps here, you could line up with the cat shine and do a jump into it and get the newly named cat shine, Super Bell Hill, Super Bell Shine. And Bowser Jr. is there to celebrate with you. Are there other ways to put Bowser Jr. into Super Mario 3D World levels? The answer is yes. In past videos, I've tested what Spike can throw, and you can make Spike throw Bowser Jr.'s. You could even try adding the Bowser Jr. object directly to Super Mario 3D World levels if you could get all of the cutscenes and linked objects and everything to work properly. I've swapped models and animations with characters to have a quote-unquote playable Bowser Jr. that's T-posing, and I've made custom levels in Bowser's Fury based on Super Mario 3D World levels. If you are interested in seeing more of what is possible in games, you might enjoy some of my other videos where we do things like making custom levels, or seeing how fast you can make dash panels, or testing if you could shoot Mario through a wall. Wishing all of you a fantastic day, and take care, everybody.